All right. Good morning. How's it going? Good, good, good. Thank you so much for being here, and thanks to everyone joining online. I like to call it Cyberland, so good morning there. My name is Gerard, and I'm completing my second master's by December in Information and Telecommunication Systems here in Ohio University. And my first was in International Studies. I see Bree down there. So today I'll be presenting my research, which centers on mitigating social engineering attacks in higher education institutions in the United States. And today I'll share my findings of what I did, which is a Phish Bowl Analysis. And a Phish Bowl is pretty much a record of all social engineering attacks that have been reported, okay? And we'll identify some trends there and see what that looks like. I'd like to start by asking a question. How many of you have received text messages from USPS saying you have an order waiting to be delivered? My hands are up too. Or an email from a job recruiter asking you, hey, we have this opportunity and we're offering you $200 to $900 of bonus per day. Okay, so which means you're in the right place, because that's what we're going to be talking about today. Here's what to expect. We're going to talk a little bit about what social engineering is. That's kind of a buzzword. And after that, we're going to look at a cyber kill chain. And I like to think of cyber kill chains as thought buckets that help us understand what the attackers do. So think about the Democrats and the Republicans, right? They have different values that guide their worldview. So that's pretty much what cyber kill chains are. Then we're going to look at what my focus is, and that's higher ed institutions in the United States. We're going to talk about why I'm focusing on them amongst other critical infrastructure. Then I'll end with practical steps. You know what practical means? We like, hey, do this, this, this. We're going to end with that. What is social engineering? Given that we are in an academic environment, I thought to adapt different definitions from scholars cited there. It's the psychology of tricking people to reveal sensitive data that they would otherwise protect. And what sensitive data, you'll ask? That could be your emails, could be your login information, could be your home addresses, etc. The icons down there, you could see even your health records as well. I'm really glad that Laura and Josh talked about privacy there as well. And sometimes it could be trade secrets in the organizations that you work with. So someone asks you, hey, what software do you use? I mean, if it's a trade secret, you shouldn't say it. So those are the kind of things that you shouldn't share. But you're probably thinking, how would I give out all of that information? I mean, I know I'm not supposed to, but considering how sophisticated these attacks are, you probably won't even realize that that's what you're doing, right? Because if you might be logging into a supposedly legitimate Microsoft account and everything looks good, the logo looks great, but you don't realize that that's not the real stuff, okay? And the attackers bank on us being curious to click on whatever emails that they send. So imagine you receive an email saying, hey, this is an employee eval form, and it happens to be someone that you're not really close with. You're like, this is the time I need to see stuff. So that curiosity might trigger you to click on that link or the email and stuff. And also they bank on us to have an oversight, pretty much not do due diligence because we're busy, it's a fast-paced environment in US higher ed institutions, and also to be ignorant about things, because they say ignorance is no excuse in the face of the law, right? So that's pretty much what social engineering is. And what are the types? Phishing would be when they reach out to you via your email. Vision on orange would be when they call you, right? So those random calls that you receive from whoever that is. Then smishing down here would be when they reach out to you via text messages. That's a popular USPS one that's trending now. Then spear phishing is more targeted. We've established that phishing is when they reach out to you via emails. But then spear phishing could be, hey Josh, sorry to pick on you, Josh, but hey Josh, we recognize that your child is in Athens High School and there is an emergency going on. Click on this link to get the latest update. That's targeted and that's more direct because they've done some background search, probably based on information they've gathered on the social media, right? So that's spear phishing. And mining social media is pretty much when they look up your social accounts, LinkedIn, to understand where you work, who your colleagues are, what skill sets you have. or Facebook to know who your cousins are or who your family members are, or Instagram to understand where your last vacation was or where your next vacation would be. So they could use all of that information to craft convincing emails, right? And that's how they reach out to you, either text or calls. Then other worthy mentions are tailgating. That's more in the realm of physical security. So you know how you're getting into Baker Center and you like to hold the door for someone else to go behind you, right? In the context of tailgating, let's say you have an access, like a swipe access to the library, and you let someone else go in that they are not supposed to go in because they don't have the rightful credentials to do so. That's tailgating. Then shoulder surfing is when someone looks over your shoulders, either physically or through a camera, to sneak out some of the stuff you're working on your laptop. So let's say you're in an office and your window is, your laptop is facing the window and someone can see your stuff. That also could be considered shoulder surfing. And email impersonation is when President Gonzalez sends you an email saying, hey, let's hang out for coffee. Probably it's the same email or similar looking letters that make up President Gonzalez's email, right? So that's pretty much what email impersonation are, and that's some of the types of social engineering. We like numbers. In 2023, the FBI received about 298,000 plus reports of phishing attacks, and you'll find this in the IC3 reports, and that's the Internet Cybercrime Complaint Center. In 2024, the Anti-Phishing Working Group in the second quarter identified 877,000 plus phishing attacks. That's a huge number compared to what the FBI found in the whole of 2023. And the UECs there stands for Unique Email Campaigns. A campaign could be several emails that go out, but they originate from the same person. So you wouldn't track them as individual phishing attacks, but as a campaign. So think of that when you see the numbers up there as the unique email campaign that was tracked by this group. With all these numbers, what's the impact of all of these numbers, right? The Sophos H1 2024 report noted that about 32% of ransomware attacks that they've tracked between January to June of 2024 was enabled by phishing. And what is ransomware, you would ask? It's pretty much a kind of attack where a cyber threat actor somehow gets malicious software into your system, and that software is designed to lock up your systems. That's what we call encryption, and you no longer have access to them. And the only way to retrieve your files or to gain access would be to pay an amount, which is going to be the ransom. And you can think of what that would be like in hospitals where they have, critical, ICUs and all of that. So that's really devastating. And in the context of higher ed institutions, the Sophos report on cybersecurity in education noted that the average cost of ransomware, or what it costs higher ed institutions to cover from a ransomware attack, would be $4.02 million. That's a huge number considering how lean some of the budgets of higher ed institutions are. So think about that as an impact of phishing. Kill chains. My favorite is the MITRE ATT&CK framework, and ATT&CK there stands for adversary tactics, techniques, and common knowledge. So it kind of tells us what the thought process is of an attacker. So they mostly start with information gathering, right? That's what we call reconnaissance. So they could phish you to get information from you. So when a job recruiter says, hi, Gerard, we have this opportunity, send your CV to this email address or phone number. That's how they could get information from you. Or when you log into your Microsoft account, thinking that it's the right one and it's not, they're able to steal your login information, and that's what they're going to use to get access to your system. And there's a couple of things that they can do, but then at the end of the day, depending on what their objectives are, they could encrypt the information within your system, and that would be considered an impact. So understanding the thought process of these guys, and when I say guys, it's gender neutral, is very, very important to ensure that we anticipate, detect, and prevent these attacks to even start with. Now, we've talked a lot about social engineering, right? But who are these people, and what do they want? What are their motivations and goals? That's a big question and a good one. So this is going to be interactive. Up here, we have, under the threat actor column, we have nation states, state-sponsored cyber threat actors. So I'll ask, what do you think would be the motivation of a nation-state actor? So, per news and data, we know that, Russia, Iran, China are normal adversaries of the United States based on the different kinds of attacks and their histories, right? So what would be their motivation for an attack? You could just yell the answers. The motivations?
Persuade voting.
To sway the voters. That's awesome. What about cyber criminals? Money? Yep. What about terrorist groups or groups that have an agenda or an ideology? Disruption. Yeah, that's right. So let's see what we have. Nation-state actors for sure would be ideology or suing the elections, and they would seek to damage, destroy, or to misinform people. Cyber criminals is mostly financial gains. Then the terrorist groups would be to disrupt, right? They could deface websites, and now it's an election period as well, and they want to, say, hey, these guys are bad, those kind of things as well. So it's necessary to understand who these people are and what their motivations are as well, because they are humans just like us. They might program software, but behind that is a human who has an agenda, who has a belief. Because talk about the extremisms that we've heard about around the world, based on religion and other things, there are motivations behind them. So it's necessary to have them at the back of our minds. Higher education institutions. Why do I focus on it? One, they are critical infrastructure. According to the Homeland Security Presidential Directive 7, education facilities is a subsector of the government facilities sector. Therefore, it's critical infrastructure, and any attack on higher ed institutions has national security implications. We've talked about adversaries that have, agenda for politics and all of that. It's going to be an attractive target. Higher ed institutions are definitely attractive targets. Then also, higher ed institutions, as we know, they produce sensitive research. They work on government-funded projects that advance different critical infrastructure. Think about energy, think about the space research. I know we have one here in OU as well with NASA, and a couple other research as well. And this data is very sensitive and it's very attractive to people that seek to steal them, either through cyber espionage or phishing, to reverse engineer them, and that's impacts the global competitive advantage of the United States. Then lastly, why the focus on higher ed institution is because of the large and diverse population. So large being that we have lots of staff, faculty, students, even emeriti and retirees, and also this population is diverse because someone that was born and raised in Seattle, Washington definitely has a different experience than someone that was born and raised here in Ohio or in Jamaica. Right, so it's necessary to see why we, to understand the diversity in higher ed institutions, because it provides these threat actors multiple opportunities and avenues to attack people. So think about this hypothetical situation. An international student from, let's say, China, for instance, who doesn't have English as the first language and doesn't have the lived experience in the United States, might click on a link in an email that says, click this link to boost your credit score. But someone born and raised in the United States will know that, no, you can't just click a link and poof, your credit score goes up. That's not how things work, right? So it's necessary to understand the different demographics and the diversity within an institution, and that could inform your training. Phish Bowl Analysis. So I mentioned earlier that a Phish Bowl is pretty much like a record of all social engineering attacks, and what I did was to analyze them, and I did analysis from 2020 up until the 25th September of this year, so just a couple of days back. And what was my motivation? First of all, to improve detection and response strategies. Because when you understand what's been going on, what's currently going on, you'd better understand how to adapt your strategies for future attacks. So that's one of the motivations. Then secondly, to facilitate awareness and training, just like we're having a session here right now, just to ensure that everyone gets to know about what's going on. Then that way you're better informed, and that would inform your next steps, wherever you're going to be doing moving forward. Then Threat intelligence and research. So when all of this data is collected, historically and in real time, it's necessary to share that information with partner institutions. I know that Ohio University and Miami University, the information security offices are really in good working relationship. So that kind of situation, you could have something and be like, hey, we've seen something like this. They share that information to them and they're able to collaborate and inform each other about threats. What was my process flow when I got hold of this Phish Bowl? And mind you, Ohio University has a Phish Bowl. You could just go on Google and type Ohio University Phish Bowl, and you would find all reports. So that's one of the things you could check out as well. And you only have to log in with your credentials if you're in OE. So my process flow was, first of all, doing a high-level review. Okay, just to see, okay, what does this tell us? What kind of attacks are these? Then I was then able to categorize them. So you make it sense of the data. I cleaned it up, then was able to import it into a data visualization tool to help with the visuals and all that. So that's pretty much my process flow. What did I find? There were a couple categories of social engineering attacks I was able to come up with based on my qualitative categorization. And the ones highlighted in red are the top three. That was between 2020 and 25th of September 2024. The first one is account resets, that's in orange. Those are kind of emails that impersonate IT help desks. So they tell you, hey, we just received an email that you're resetting your password. If you don't click this link to tell us stop, your account will be deactivated in 24 hours or 48 hours. Or, emails along those lines. That's what account reset emails are. Then job opportunity, that would be the one in red. That's in the bars, that's the highest. That's for the 3 out of the 176 I analyzed. So those are like the, hey, I have this opportunity paying $900 per day, and do you have your CV to send to me? I mean, they're worded differently and sometimes they're the same text, surprisingly, but it's very prevalent. So that was it. That was the number one actually. Then we had work or business. So that would be emails or text messages impersonating your colleagues. So you could receive a SharePoint notification on your email. This person shared a file to you, click on it to view it, and poof, you click on it and everything that happens afterwards. But then other mentions are academic. So those are like Blackboard notifications, Canva notifications, grants related emails, right? Then we also had giveaways. So there's always some old person giving away lots of musical instruments. Oh, we have this. Just if you're interested, call this number or text this number, and you only have to pay $50 for shipping. Please don't call, just text because they're sick and they can't talk. Those were some of the call outs as well. So I found that pretty interesting. Here's one example of an academic related phishing email. This is impersonating Canvas, and we recently transitioned fully, I think, to Canvas from Blackboard. And this is saying that, hey everyone, I hope this image finds you well, this message finds you well. There's this exciting opportunity to earn extra credit. I mean, students are always looking for opportunities for extra credit, so who won't click on that? And you see an email that supposedly has OU Canvas, come on, you'll be like, yes, this is it, and you click on it. But what I highlighted in red on the left would be to find out what the project is, log in, and click on the extra credit project folder. So this is prompting you to click on a link to do something, right? Then on the right was an approved grant notification. We are all researchers in different capacities, right? So you're always looking out for your next grant opportunity, and you probably receive this email, you're like, yes, I've prayed for this. And you follow through with the email, and what happens afterwards. So these are some examples of academic related emails. Then the popular account reset is account termination notice. Ooh, that's scary. No one wants to lose your account, right? And the one highlighted in red means you are to provide the requested information below via SMS only to the provided number to verify your My Ohio account immediately. So there is that urgency in it to avoid deactivation and book an appointment. So this is like an example of an account reset email. And of course, it always has different variations, but there are always things I will note in the comment slides. This is an SMS example, the popular USPS one. And full disclosure, this email, text messages I received personally. The one on the right that was sent by devanfreddy@gmail.com and the one sent by some random characters at hotmail.com had the exact same texts. No different, and they were sent about a month apart. So it's quite interesting to see, my USPS package arrived. I didn't order anything. I'm expecting nothing. So where's it arriving from, right? So always bear that at the back. And sometimes, coincidentally, you might be expecting something. So I don't know how they know, but they know somehow. The second thing I found after the categorizations of these social engineering attacks are the calls to action. So those are pretty much prompts or expectations that a cyber threat actor has of you. One of them, which is the most prevalent and accounted for about 52.94%, was click link. They might not expressly tell you, click on this link to do this. Sometimes they do. But then there is always that expectation for you to click on a link. Another one is what I call contact given email or cell. So they'll tell you to do this, call this number or email this number. And the other one I found was scan QR code. That's pretty new. Now we're all about QR codes. No one wants to be using links anymore. But then sometimes they know that our email systems are set up in a way that even when a user clicks on a malicious link, it could prevent it from going through to the end, or they're able to track it. But these guys have gotten clever, and now they require you to scan a QR code. So that takes away the security of your laptop system to your phone. Then when you scan it, everything happens on your phone. There are a couple of the ones that were like send money. Those would be blackmail related emails. There were times where I saw emails like, I'll call them sextortion, where they tell you, oh, we have X number of photos about you, and if you don't send 2 Bitcoin in 24 hours, we're going to use it for defacement and all that. So these were pretty much common calls to action that I found. With all this being said, how do we spot social engineering attacks? One, if it's too good to be true, it probably is not true, right? So unless you're Taylor Swift or Michael Jackson, God rest his soul, you probably won't be paid $2,000 per day as a bonus outside of your base pay. So when someone is promising you that, why would they be promising you that when they could take up the offer themselves, right? Then if the request or the email or the text message or the call seems fairly urgent, then you might want to, pump the brakes a little bit before you engage with the person, okay? Then if the email or text message has no context whatsoever, then they just randomly send you a message and you were not expecting it, that might be a telltale of that. Then if there's that fear, if you're scared when you're reading it based on the urgency, like the account termination notice, that's something to consider as well. And if it has grammatical errors, either in the subject, in the body, or in the signature, that also could be a telltale, because some of these attackers don't necessarily have English as a first language, and they leverage online translators and stuff. So there could be some, missing text here and there. So always look out for those as well. Then, if there are malicious or suspicious links and attachments in the email or text message, what have you. We've talked about how to identify them, right? I use these indicators to check all these emails and group them. And I found that about 67% of these reported social engineering attacks had good subject lines, okay? So there was no grammatical error in the subject line, there was no weird looking stuff in the subject line. Then about 43% of them had good grammar. So you probably receive a message and you're like, oh, okay, good grammar, check. And yeah, it's probably good, and you engage with them. It's also possible that even if it has good grammar, it's still phishing, okay? Then About 57% of them did not have any form of urgency. So there was no do this immediately or you're gonna die or the world will end. They didn't have that. Then I asked myself, okay, are there emails that checked all these boxes, right? That had no urgency, that had no suspicious links, that had good subjects, no grammatical errors? Yes, there were a couple of them. And it was a small number, but that small number means that it's very potent. And it accounted for about 3.4% of all the emails. So it was about just 6 emails out of the 176 I analyzed that checked all the boxes. Even if a text message and an email checks all the boxes and you check, you still need to do due diligence, okay? That's it. I also found that there were false positives. So there were emails or text messages that were reported as phishing, but the security analysts did their research and found that they were not. The essence of this training or awareness is to ensure that we're able to better detect what social engineering attacks are, so the false positives would reduce, and it's going to reduce the stress on the security analysts as well, okay? What are our next steps? We've talked a lot about what social engineering is, examples of what we've seen, and my findings from my Phish Bowl analysis. If you're in the C-suite, or you're a manager, or you're a security analyst, okay, and I had to group them based on people that are actively working as cybersecurity is their career, or privacy, and end users would be people that are not necessarily actively working in cybersecurity. One of the recommendations I have is ensuring that your trainings are demographically tailored. I'm not saying you should send singular emails to every single soul, but then kind of understand what your customers, that would be the university community in this sense. So we have international faculties, we have domestic faculties, we have international students. You could break it up into continents, because it might take a little bit extra work, but it's necessary so that you don't have a one-size-fits-all training and expect it to do magic, but it ends up not doing it. Because, as I said, people who don't have English as a first language and may not necessarily understand how it is, being born and raised in the United States. So you might assume, yeah, someone would very easily know that, but they don't. Because, again, they were not born and raised here. Another thing you might want to consider would be engaging people. So as a chief information security officer or the CIO, maybe from time to time, you might want to, send emails saying, hey, just a quick reminder that this is what phishing emails look like. Please don't do this. You might think it's not going to have an impact, but trust me, it would. Then also supporting student opportunities through research. And I'm really thankful for the Information Security Office here, because I was at the OHEC conference in May. And there's a couple other opportunities that they've presented. I know there's a cybersecurity club as well, being headed by Matt, yes, as well. So these are some ways to encourage cybersecurity and stuff to do as far as moving forward. Then for end users, one of the things I'm suggesting that we do would be data minimization. Mind what you share on social media, because that's what they can use to get at you. I talked about the instance of someone's child being in Athens Middle School. How do they know that you have a child in Athens Middle School? It's because you share it on Facebook. So you're indirectly giving them arsenals, or equipping them with what they would use to get at you, okay? Then also, always verify. There's this concept called zero trust in cybersecurity, and it always says you always trust but verify. So whenever you have some suspicions, or you receive an email or a text from someone, or something, always verify and don't just assume, okay? Then self-training. There are lots of modules out there to get knowledge about cybersecurity stuff. I like to listen to a podcast called The Darknet Diaries. You get to learn about different things that happen with cybersecurity and stuff. Then there's YouTube videos as well, or Google, or even ChatGPT or Copilot. But then verify those as well, because sometimes they hallucinate. So you don't want to equip yourself with wrong information. Then lastly, report suspicious emails. And you probably ask me how. See how to do so in the next slide. This is my inbox. Of course, I've stripped off everything that shouldn't be displayed today. But if you're accessing your email from your laptop, you would find a button up there that says report, and you could click on the drop down to see report phishing or report junk. I think a couple of days back I reported one and I received a really nice message. Oh, thank you for reporting. I was like, whoa, okay, I feel like I've saved the world. I encourage you, please, whenever you have suspicions about emails and stuff, please report. And there was one I received recently. It was from someone I regularly receive emails from, precisely invoices. And on this day, this email came in with my name written on it. So it was not just general hi all, right? It was Dear Gerard. And there was an invoice attached there. But mind you, this email came in at 11 p.m. This person doesn't work at 11 p.m., but somehow the email came at 11 p.m. And when I opened it, I saw there was an invoice there. But the invoice had a .eml file extension. That's strange because most invoices are PDFs, right? So I had to pause, again, verify, and I checked the person's email to see, is this the same person? It turned out to be the same exact email. So it was not spoofing, it was not any of that. So apparently the person was hacked. Okay, and I'm thankful. That was the email I reported that I received a nice note that, hey, and stuff like that. But then the next day I went to contact the person. I was like, hey, what's up? They're like, hey, hope you didn't download that. Lots of people did, and the systems got compromised and stuff. So it's always very necessary to report, because when you do, people are able to go to the Phish Bowl and see examples of such emails. So when they come, they're able to know quickly what to do. For games recommendations, you could check out the Defend the Crown game. It's up on Google Play for the Android users. Boo. There's a second one that we got introduced to by Prof. Trevor Roycroft. He had us do the IT management simulation cyber attack. That was a pretty nice one. You could check it out if you're a professor or you want to train your staff or your colleagues as well. Then a special mention would be Kahoots. It's a fun way to ask questions, and it's more like a trivia stuff, and it's a way to have people talk about things and test their knowledge as well. All right, lots of talking, over to you. I have a prompt for you, and please, you'll be my ChatGPT today, okay? I'm gonna prompt you, you do your analysis amongst yourselves in the table. It's gonna be like a quick 2 minutes exercise, and you yell out your answers, based on groups. So my prompt is, please assume the role of a cybersecurity leader. Your team has been informed, you've been informed by a team that job opportunity scams are the most prevalent social engineering scheme. I mean, I'm your team now, and I'm informing you that that's the case, okay? So what are your next steps? You're a cybersecurity leader. What would you do when you receive this information? So please, if you want to just chat amongst yourselves, and after 2 minutes, we can come back to this, okay? So 2 minutes, your time starts now.
What we're seeing in the wild and try to replicate it and see if we can get it.
I hate to interrupt conversations, but it looks like 2 minutes is up. But thank you so much for that quick chat. So what do we talk about? Any volunteers that want to share what they were able to say quickly? Volunteers? Or I'll volunteer at the table. I see your hands are raised up. Yes, please.
If you're just looking for spam, you should always check the sender, make sure that the name matches the message from Monster, you should expect a message from Monster. That domain didn't match, that was just from a random email. Too good to be true, always use common sense. No one's going to give you $2,000 unless you have some domain expertise that they need. And usually legitimate businesses have legitimate contact addresses. They're not going to use WhatsApp, they're not going to use SMS. They're going to send you to a verified telephone number or verified domain name you look at on their website.
All right, thank you so much. So always verify that the sender address matches the content of the email, okay? Thank you. Two more, please. Bree, your table.
So if I was leading the team, I would find an example of what these look like, send it out to everybody and say, hey, heads up, this is a scam that's going around, please don't respond to it, report it to us, block it, whatever you need to do.
All right, thank you so much. So always have an example to share with people because a lot of people are visual learners, so it's necessary to do it as well. Then the last one. All right, Laura.
So I couldn't entirely tell this from the scenario you gave, but depending on the size of the organization and the level of decentralization, I think I might take a step back and actually apply a compliance framework and start with, okay, who's involved in this? Who are all the stakeholders who might have a part of this? Like who's receiving them? Who's managing the technology? Who are all the people that can help? Is there a communications team that can help build training? Once you know the stakeholders, do we have the rules we already need? Do we have information about use of email and use of devices and all those types of things? Develop some training and communicate about that. Now, all of that sounds like it takes a long time. It doesn't have to. It could actually happen in the course of a team meeting to make sure that you have all those pieces and that the right stakeholders are involved and informed and part of crafting the solution.
Yeah, well, thank you so much. I really love that perspective as well because that's from an admin standpoint. Check who the stakeholders are because most often than not, it might be a group of managers that receive a text message or an email campaign because they know you have access to sensitive data or stuff like that, okay? So I really appreciate your parts. And I have a fish bowl, but it has a bowl with treats in there. So after this presentation, I'm gonna give it out to you both. But thanks a lot for your participation. And this is where I draw the curtain. It's necessary to do cyber threat intelligence because, and what's that? Cyber threat intelligence is pretty much gathering information from the open source, so through news feeds and correlating that with data collected internally from your systems. Okay, then putting those together to understand what those trends are, and through that analysis, you're able to detect trends and figure out what was happening in the past, what's currently happening now, and what you could do to better improve your security posture. Remember that as users, end users, right, we are all defenders. It's not a job for just the cybersecurity team. As we can see, anyone can be targeted. And through you, the entire university or your entire company can be compromised, and we don't want that. Okay, as we've established, it has national security implications as well. So it's necessary that we have that at the back of our mind that we're all collaborators on this. Then the hope is, now moving forward, the best practices that we've discussed here today as far as how to spot them, what to do when you detect phishing, will become second nature. If you can think about the very first time you drove to Walmart in any city you visited for the first time, you probably used the GPS. But after a while, you could drive without necessarily using the GPS because that has become part of you. It's like a second nature for you. So that's my hope that the best practices that we discussed here today will do that for you. Here's why I say thank you. This was last year. It was my first time attending the conference, and I'm really blessed to be invited to present this as well. Big thanks to Prof. Bruce, who's been my my advisor. He was like, "Who? What did I do?" But yeah, I'm really thankful to him. It's been a very wonderful journey as it takes a village, and we're really happy to have him in ECT now. I know audits and everyone else misses him, but we're really thankful for that. And he also represents the ECT faculty now. And I want to say thank you to my colleagues that are here that are participating, that's my classmates, because one of our professors, Prof. Saunders, made it compulsory for us to be here, and he actually made an assignment out of it, so you have to be here. So thanks to everyone in Cyberland and here in person as well. Then I want to say thank you to the information security team, Ed, thank you so much, to Chris, and the whole team, Kyle, Matt, Jesse, Reagan, everybody that has made this possible. I'm really thankful to you all, because it's definitely takes a village. Any questions in 1 minute? And while that's going on, please scan this QR code. This is not a trick, I promise. It's not. So there's this initiative that happens every year, right? It's between Ohio University and Miami University. It's the Cybermania. So you could scan the QR code and fill it out, and you would answer just about 5 questions. So that's like my last slide. If there are any questions, we could hang around afterwards, since I know it's time up, and we can talk about it. So thank you so much. My name is Gerard, and thank you.